When I was about 15 years old, me and some of my friends decided to go camping at a nearby lake. It was a 3 to 4 hour hike, and the nearest house was maybe 3 hours away. We brought some homemade wine and drank the whole night and ate poorly grilled hot dogs. Life was good. We all shared the tent, so it was crowded as fuck in the tent, but we all fell asleep around 2 a.m. At 4, I wake up because I can feel someone running their hand down my forearm. Not that unlikely that someone brushes up against me, since there wasn't any space to move around in the crowded tent. But this is the arm that is facing the tent, so someone touched me from the outside of the tent. I sit up and get instantly horrified to see that all of my friends are sound asleep in the tent with me. I put on my deepest voice and shout, "Whoever the fuck you are, you need to leave." And a manly, low voice answers me, "You should pack up your stuff and leave." Not threatening or aggressive, just calmly and in a dead kind of way. By now, all of my friends are awake and are just looking at me. No words, just pure horror in their eyes. I say, "Okay, we will go, but you need to leave. Hurry up." When we get out of the tent, this man, who is fucking huge by the way, has taken the little rowboat that was laying at the bank and gotten into it and is just sitting in the middle of the lake and watching us pack up our stuff and trying to get the fuck away as soon as possible. We had to walk around the lake on our way back, and he was just sitting there watching us. We never went back. This was 17 years ago in a rural Scandinavian country. We have a free-to-roam law, so we were not trespassing. We knew our way around the small town we grew up. Everybody knows everybody. There have been no people missing, nor found dead. Never. There hasn't been a murder in generations. We told our parents, who at first tried to calm us down, and they said that we were probably overreacting. But the way he caressed my arm before he told us to go was not normal. When we told them everything and what he said to us, we were told never to go back. After COVID, we all met up and the subject came up, and we tried to do some digging. There are no houses or cabins anywhere near. The lake is way too small to fish in. When he was sitting dead center in his little boat, there was maybe 60 feet to land on all sides. No one has ever seen this man before or after. When I was little, around 8, I hated going to the dentist. He always made me uncomfortable for some reason. I remember thinking his smile stretched too far and seemed forced like clowns. Anyway, my mum always came with me and went back so I wouldn't be scared. One day, my dad had me, divorced parents, and had to take me to the dentist, but tried to make me go back alone so he could sit out in the lobby doing whatever. The assistants had to literally drag me back to the room, and you could hear me screaming and crying down the hallway, refusing to sit in the chair. Finally, my dad came back to get me. Irritated I'd made a scene, he rescheduled my appointment to when my mum would have me, and we just left. He made a big deal about how bad I was acting, and told my mum she was spoiling me and all sorts of shit. 2 weeks later, it's on the news that my dentist was charged with after molesting children under anesthesia and photographing it. About 2 years ago, I was driving home from a family reunion pretty late at night, and the drive was about 2 hours. I didn't stay the night because I had to be back for work the following day. Most of the drive was on roads with dense bushes and trees on either side, the real creepy ones you see a lot in movies. Anyway, I'd been driving about 45 minutes, and I was starting to get really tired. You know how sometimes you just suddenly become really tired out of nowhere? Well, yeah, that happened to me. I knew I wasn't going to last, but I didn't come across any place that I felt I could park and safely sleep. Anyway, after it became clear to me that I wasn't going to find a place to pull up, and my tiredness wasn't going away, I did something very questionable. I pulled over to the side of the road onto the grass behind some bushes to try and hide my car from anybody else who was going to come past. The roads weren't empty. I came across another car every few minutes or so. I made a mental note that the time was 11:22 and then fell asleep. Sometime later, I was awoken by a scratching sound. I looked at the clock, 11:50. The sound stopped after a few seconds, and because I was still extremely tired, I didn't bother looking around and simply went back to sleep. I was later awoken by the same sound, and it was now 12:40. This time, it really freaked me out, because the sound didn't stop. The thought ran across my mind that it was just an animal inspecting the car. But why would it return almost an hour after it had left the previous time? I looked in my rearview mirror and just managed to catch a glimpse of something running away into the forest. Now, at the time, I thought it was a damn hook killer. You know, that one that scratched that couple's car and then slaughtered the guy when he got out to investigate? Fuck that, I thought to myself, so I got the hell out of there. There was a bend no more than 100 yards up the road, and as I came around it, there was a fucking car parked off to the side of the road, with the driver's side door opened. I slowed down just to look, to see if anyone was there. There wasn't. Then I looked in my rearview mirror. I didn't see anything, and all of a sudden, this guy comes sprinting around the corner. He starts screaming at me, shouting stuff like, hey you, get the fuck out of the car, now." I noped the fuck out of there and sped off. I never saw the guy again. Moral of the story? Don't fucking sleep on the side of a deserted road. When I was younger, Georgia was hit with a really bad snowstorm. You can look it up, but it took place around 2012 to 2016, pretty much when I was in elementary school. My dad was caught in the snowstorm, and it was basically my stepmother, my brother, and I sitting in the living room. It was late at night, so while my brother and I were asleep, my stepmom was downstairs in the living room. At the town home we were at, there was a giant window that sat next to the living room that looked across the side of the building into the woods about 15 or so feet away. If I remember it correctly, she said she heard footsteps at the window when she freaked out and quickly went upstairs into the bedroom with my brother and I. She stayed up there for the rest of the night, and the next morning she went downstairs and looked around. There was no sign of any break-in or anything, so she went outside, where there was a couple inches of snow. Once she walked around the backyard towards the large window, she saw footsteps that led from the woods next to our house and towards the large window. But the scary and weird part was that there were no footprints that led from the window to the woods. Basically, someone had walked out of the tree line to the window and stood there, or they were able to trace their footsteps perfectly to re-enter the woods. My stepmother took a picture of the footsteps, and it was terrifying. The story creeps me out to this day.